few weeks ago, I posted a video on general strategies for fall and winter gardening in climates like mine here in the Sacramento Valley. This consists of long, hot, dry summers followed by chilly, often rainy winters that bring the occasional frost, but nothing in the way of a deep freeze. Anything that could be legitimately called a fall or spring only lasts really a few weeks here. Today, I'm going to dig a little deeper into some of the specific challenges I typically encounter when growing veggies through the fall and winter here, and how I try to deal with them. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about heat, as I've been complaining about it pretty much non-stop for a few months now, but it's important to address it, at least briefly. Here in the Sacramento Valley, summers seem to linger longer and longer into what is technically fall. Temperatures in the upper 90s and triple digits are a given well into September, and this year we had a heat wave make life miserable for the first week and a half of October. This is a real problem, as most of the plants capable of surviving Sacramento's sporadically frosty winters did not do particularly well in the heat. And good luck direct sowing something like carrots, as the top layer of soil will likely dry out faster than you can realistically keep it watered. If you wait to start fall crops until after the weather has cooled, plants might not yield anything worth eating until the next spring, as lower light levels in fall and winter tend to drastically slow growth. My preferred solution to the problem of fall heat is to simply start my fall veggies indoors under grow lights in late summer, the same way I would start my tomatoes in late winter. I'm already paying to cool my house so we don't die. I figure I might as well cool some fall plant starts while I'm at it. Most years, if I start fall veggies indoors around September 1st, they're ready for transplant by the first week of October, when conditions have typically cooled a bit. However, if early October heat waves become our new normal, I'll have to adjust my sowing dates accordingly. I lived the first 34 years of my life in northern New England, so Sacramento winters still feel like something of a non-issue to me. From late November through March, we usually have a bit of a rainy season, and daytime temperatures rarely dip below the low 50s. While our winters are orders of magnitude milder than what I grew up with, they're certainly not tropical. As such, we do have sporadic, light to moderate frosts throughout the winter that can damage or kill sensitive plants. The solution here, of course, is to stick with frost-tolerant crops for your fall and winter garden. Brassicas, like these broccoli and kohlrabi here, beets, turnips, and onions are all hardy enough to survive Sacramento winters without cover. Carrots and most greens are also great choices for an overwinter garden. Some plants, like these potatoes here, love cool weather, but are not frost tolerant. Frost covers can be employed, but I prefer to simply grow small or new potatoes during the brief window of time we get in which the weather is neither scorching hot nor frosty cold. During the Sacramento summer, it's easy to forget that weather events are actually a thing. We don't really have what I would call weather during the summer, unless of course you consider 6 months of hot and bright to be weather. During the winter, however, the region regularly sees powerful atmospheric river storms that can bring torrential rains, which can cause destructive flooding and bring winds powerful enough to uproot trees. Such conditions can not only wipe out a vegetable garden, they can result in a federal disaster declaration. Now, I recently had a gentle reminder of the existence of weather when a system brought moderate winds to the area. Gusts were only in the 25-mile-an-hour range or so, but that was enough to level my broccoli and kohlrabi, as you see here, and snap off a number of leaves and branches. Luckily, none of the stalks broke, so no permanent damage was really done, but it was good motivation to weatherproof my garden a bit. In this case, I just installed some stakes to support the top-heavy plants through the next windy day that might come along. Unfortunately, there's only so much that can be done to protect a garden from weather. One of the hardest things to accept as a gardener is that months of time, money, and hard work can be erased overnight by a single storm. Common garden pests don't seem to enjoy the heat any more than we humans do. I tend to notice pest pressure declines through the worst of the summer and then explodes with a vengeance as soon as the weather cools off a bit. What we're looking at here is the cabbage white butterfly in search of brassicas on which to lay eggs. These eggs will soon hatch into little green caterpillars that can make the leaves of a broccoli or Brussels sprouts plant disappear in the blink of an eye. Similarly, I notice an uptick in whitefly, aphid, and slug activity as soon as days become pleasant. While there are innumerable folk wisdom solutions and quote unquote garden hacks that are said to solve pest problems, I really tend to prefer using products specifically engineered for the task. Many of these products are certified for organic gardening, and if used in accordance with the label, they do minimal harm to beneficial insects. For caterpillars and other munching pests, BT spray has been highly effective for me. For soft-bodied pests such as whitefly and aphids, I've had decent luck using insecticidal soap. For slugs and snails, iron phosphate-based baits have worked wonders for me. As we approach mid-October, days are already brief and getting shorter. By the time the winter solstice rolls around, day length will only be about 8 hours. Not only are short days themselves a gardening challenge, but since the sun clings to the southern horizon through the winter, obstructions such as trees and houses create an overabundance of shade during the fleeting daylight hours. And while there's no solution to celestial realities, and we can't magically make days longer or bulldoze all the obstructions on the southern horizon, adequate garden planning can act as something of a workaround. So this garden space here is something of a no-grow zone during the winter. The beds and planters here simply don't get enough light to facilitate the growth of healthy plants in a reasonable amount of time. As such, I more or less shut these guys down during the winter. I've rated the barrel planters for the soil, and I'm now using them more or less for just mulch storage. In these blue beds, which also don't get very much light during the winter, I've seeded a cover crop that will very slowly grow over the next few months. I've simply accepted the fact that my usable garden space during the winter diminishes significantly. I recommend keeping a journal of which parts of your garden get sufficient sunlight at various times of the year. For me, it's really the northern half of my garden setup through the fall and winter that will work for growing vegetables. It's also important to accept that a winter garden is a slow-growing endeavor, and the carrots you sow in October might not be ready until March or April. So that'll about do it for now. I'm obviously beyond happy the weather has finally cooled off, and I'm really hoping for a bountiful, if slow-growing, cool season garden. So, until next time, let's hope it all doesn't die.